Ladies and gentlemen.
Let me tell you something, brother.
It's Talk Wrestling Live with Felix the Cat Katlovski
and Gemini Joe.
It doesn't matter what your name is.
We heard rumbling. No. We heard rumors. Homicide. Conan. 5150 at LAX.
Listen live on Mondays at 4 p.m. on NorthCoastUnderground.com.
And follow us on Twitter at TWL 24/7.
I'm in no mood for your wife crack. Let's get it on.
Hey wrestling fans, this is Felix the Cat Katlovski, and this is another episode of Talk Wrestling Live. This is on NorthCoastUnderground.com, where the underground starts with you. And we're just about to begin with Fear After Dark, where we recap what happened from Impact Wrestling. I know it's been a while since we've had a show. We'll be continuing from where we left off. So without further ado, here is Fear After Dark. Are you scared? It's time for Fear After Dark.
Thought this was fun and games.
Fear is a funny thing.
Encelo! Miedo!
Fear was meant for the art of survival. I am the new beginning.
Because we are for Ohio. By Ohio. Because we are Ohio versus everything.
I'm better than every single one in that locker room. Tessa Blanchard is undeniable.
I'm not a man. I'm a machine.
We're back on Fear After Dark, and we'll be talking about a couple different episodes of Impact Wrestling. We'll be talking about the Impact Wrestling from May 17th, May 24th, and May 31st from just last week. So let's get to that. We'll start out with Disco Inferno and his war on women's wrestling. So on May 17th, we were expecting to have a Knockouts Battle Royal that was supposed to be featuring Jordynne Grace taking on Madison Rayne, Scarlett Bordeaux, Tessa Blanchard, Carissa Rivera, Solo Darling, Tasha Steelz, as well as Ashley Vox, Alicia Edwards, and Kira Hogan. Now, somehow, Disco Inferno, Glenn Gilberti, he somehow found his way into that Knockouts Battle Royal. And at first, all the ladies, they just threw him out of the ring. So he joined the commentary booth to kill some time. But later, he won the match by eliminating Tessa Blanchard after she already eliminated Kira Hogan. I shouldn't have to point this out, but Glenn Gilberti isn't a knockout, so I'm not sure what he was doing being included in that match, but we do know how he feels about women's wrestling, and if you've been watching, Glenn Gilberti, he's not a fan of women's wrestling the way it is now, where it's about the competition and the athleticism inside the ring. Instead, he prefers what it used to be in the 90s when women's wrestling was just about sex appeal and eye candy. So on May 24th, Glenn Gilberti was in action again, this time against newcomer to Impact Wrestling, Ashley Vox. So Disco Inferno, he continued bashing women's wrestling, but once Ashley began fighting back, Glenn Gilberti used some dirty tactics, and it looked like Tessa Blanchard was looking to make a face turn as she came out to the rescue of Ashley Vox, and this sent Disco Inferno to retreat. So on May 31st, Disco Inferno was at it again, and he had some words for Tessa Blanchard as they met in the ring. So Disco Inferno claimed that Tessa Blanchard had daddy issues all her life, and he told her that if daddy issues were going to be her problem going forward, that Disco Inferno would volunteer to be her daddy. The nerve of Disco Inferno, I mean, can you imagine how demeaning that is to say to a woman? Tessa Blanchard, she wasn't about to take that. She refused to take what Glenn Gilberti had just told her, and she fought back against Glenn Gilberti. Now, Tessa Blanchard, she knocked Disco Inferno down and delivered some thunderous blows. I mean, it looked like an MMA fight or something. So Disco tried to aimlessly walk away from Tessa after this, but she just elbowed him and she just defeated Glenn Gilberti with the pin. And once again, Disco Inferno made a fool of himself, but Tessa proved that she's not anyone to mess with, as she stood up to Disco and put him in his place. Disco Inferno looked like he was put out cold by Tessa, as the ref had to check on Glenn Gilberti, still laying on his back in the ring on the canvas. So then we take a look at Sami Callihan and OVE, what they've been up to. We know that on May 17th, Sami Callihan unleashed his beast, Madman Fulton, on local talent Randy Shawn. Now, Fulton delivered 2 choke slams. This is 7 feet in the air, just dropping Shawn to the ring canvas, and Madman Fulton would close out that match with the end of days. Now afterwards, you had Madman Fulton, he continued to choke Shawn, but Callahan had to stop his monster from going too far, as Callahan pulled Fulton off Shawn. Then on May 24th, you had Sami Callihan, he beat Fallah Bahh in a match while Scarlett Bordeaux was accompanying Fallah Bahh. Callahan won the match by using the ropes during his pin. It's a dirty move that we see a lot of wrestlers do to take the advantage. Now, after the match, Callahan showed some disrespect to Scarlett Bordeaux. He just spit at her. I mean, who does that? So let's talk about the North. And there's a lot to say about them. They're finding themselves in a lot of different places in Impact Wrestling. On May 24th, LAX retained their Impact Wrestling Tag Team Championships against the North. Josh Alexander was the man pinned by Santana after LAX used some tag team combinations, but Ethan Page wasn't able to make the save. So it didn't look like it was the North's night starting out. But later that night, on May 24th, Rob Van Dam, he was having an Extreme reunion in a singles match against Tommy Dreamer. And we saw chairs used in that match. Now RVD closed out the match with a 5-star frog splash, and he got the pin on Tommy Dreamer. But after the match, that's when the North returned to the ring. Again, that's Ethan Page and Josh Alexander I'm talking about. They beat down Rob Van Dam and Tommy Dreamer. But just as Tommy Dreamer began to fight back, you had Moose. He joined his pals in the North and continued the assault on RVD and Dreamer. But then the lights went out as Sabu and Super Genie made their way out as they tossed chairs at the North. Now Rob Van Dam used the assist from Sabu, tossing a chair towards Moose, with RVD hitting the Van Daminator on Moose. Now lots of ECW chants as the two Extreme Legends celebrated together. So on May 31st, after their previous encounter, Rob Van Dam, Sabu, and Tommy Dreamer were now scheduled to face the North and Moose. So of course tables and chairs were used in that match. Sabu managed to put Ethan Page through a table using the Arabian Facebuster. Both Sabu and Ethan Page were in pain after that move, but then you had Rob Van Dam, he closed the match out with a 5-star frog splash on Ethan Page, followed by a pin to get the W as Super Genie celebrated with RVD, Sabu, and Tommy Dreamer. So we'll be talking more about Impact Wrestling right after these messages.
Ride the winds, flying far and soaring like a hawk.
Run a marathon with the endurance of a tiger.
Swim across the ocean like a dolphin.
Beast Energy X. Do you have it in you?
Buy Beast Energy X at all Waffle Max locations and unleash the beast in you.
Join the Beast Energy X fan club and get free perks. Sign up by following us on Twitter at Beast Energy X.
Follow us on Twitter at TWL 24/7.
I'm not finished with you!
And now, let's get back to the show. So getting back to Impact Wrestling, from what happened with the North and their encounter with Rob Van Dam and Ethan Page, well, if you heard, Rob Van Dam was successful with Sabu, and the North, it wasn't their night. Now, Moose was not very happy on May 31st, and we learned that he no longer wants to be associated with the North. He's going out on his own. So we'll see what kind of future Moose has doing that, going back to his solo run. But now we're going to refocus our view on Rosemary and what she's been up to in Impact Wrestling. So speaking of Rosemary, on May 17th, we did have a dog collar match between Rosemary and Su Yung. And if you're not familiar with a dog collar match, it involves both combatants wearing a dog collar with a chain linking the two participants so you know they can't get too far away from one another. Now, Rosemary hit Su with part of the chain and she spit the green mist into the face of Su Yung. While Su Yung was blinded by the mist, Rosemary hit a spear and Rosemary hit an F5-like move and she pinned Su Yung to get the win. Now, after winning her match, Rosemary dragged Su Yung to the back, still wearing that dog collar and chain. And then later on May 24th, Rosemary was tired of Taya Valkyrie and she confronted Taya after Taya was defending her Knockouts Championship against Madison Rayne. Now, during their match, Taya tried to distract the referee, preventing Madison from hitting a reverse DDT. Now, Taya was grabbing and holding on to the ref's leg, and shortly after, Taya shifted her focus back to Madison Rayne, as Madison hit the road to Valhalla. After that, Taya pinned Madison, with Taya retaining her Knockouts Championship. Now, immediately afterwards, The lights went dark, and Taya didn't have time to celebrate her win, as Rosemary made her way out, with Su Yung still wearing that collar and chain from their previous dog collar match I was talking about. As Rosemary held Su Yung captive, for a moment Rosemary snatched Taya's Knockouts Championship, sending a message that Rosemary is coming for the gold. And then on May 31st, Rosemary met with Father James Mitchell. Although she didn't invite him, Mitchell said that things were getting out of hand, and Mitchell didn't like that Rosemary was slandering him. Mitchell blamed Rosemary for the death of Allie, and Mitchell promised Allie he'd bring her to the undead realm, but he never promised that he'd get her out. So while Allie fought her way out of the undead realm, Mitchell said that Allie didn't listen to his warning, that even if Allie did get out of the undead realm, that she wouldn't be the same. We all saw how she came out different, both in her personality and in her appearance. I mean, Allie used to have an outgoing, perky personality, and then when she came out of that undead realm, she was so dark, both in her behavior and even in her appearance, as she went from a blonde to having dark hair. So Mitchell explained how Allie got tired of Rosemary bossing her around, and that's why she came to Su Yung and Mitchell by her own free will. Because she wasn't abducted, Mitchell claimed that Rosemary was jealous of Allie, so Mitchell gave Rosemary the opportunity to win Allie back in the Dark War. And while Rosemary did just that, but while Mitchell gave Rosemary Allie's paperwork, Allie was still not herself. So Rosemary offered to return Su Yung to Mitchell as the same condition of Allie, which was in pieces. So Mitchell dared Rosemary to even try it. Now, Mitchell told Rosemary that this whole situation could have been avoided only if Rosemary had accepted Allie the way that she became. Mitchell pointed out that Rosemary once again didn't listen to Mitchell by returning to the undead realm, and instead of blaming Mitchell for what happened to Allie, Rosemary should blame herself for not being a good friend to Allie. Just then, you had Rosemary choke Father James Mitchell, and she nearly killed him. I mean, Rosemary told Mitchell that she's keeping the undead bride, and she told Mitchell to leave. So what do you think Father James Mitchell's going to respond to that by? Well, we'll find out on Impact Wrestling. We're going to talk about the Desi Hit Squad. They were in X Division and Tag Team action. First, on May 24th, Desmond from the Rascals, he competed against Petey Williams, Ace Austin, Rohit Raju from the Desi Hit Squad, and Gama Singh, he was at ringside to support Rohit, but Desmond was the one that got the victory with a modified handspring Pele kick, followed by a pin. So then on May 31st, Rohit Raju and Raj, representing the Desi Hit Squad, they took on the Deaners. Now that's Cody Deaner and Cousin Jake. So the Desi Hit Squad were looking to get a win and impress Gama Singh, but they had some miscommunication as Cody sent both members of the Desi Hit Squad colliding head first, and this allowed the Deaners to get her done and score the victory with a quick schoolboy pin by Cody Deaner. We move over to Eddie Edwards and his feud with Killer Kross. So we know on May 17th, Eddie Edwards took on Killer Kross, and Eddie entered the ring with his friend Kenny. Yes, that's not a person, but an actual kendo stick. Eddie Edwards named that kendo stick after he was given a gift from Tommy Dreamer several months ago. Killer Kross hit a Doomsday Saito with Edwards landing on his head and dropping Kenny the kendo stick. But then, after ending the match by pinning Eddie Edwards, Killer Kross wasn't finished just yet. Killer Kross used zip ties to tie Eddie Edwards' arms to the middle rope so he couldn't even move. Now, with Eddie all tied up, Killer Kross grabbed the kendo stick, and Eddie was telling Killer Kross to hit him, but instead, Killer Kross broke Kenny over his knee, and Eddie was upset that his buddy, Kenny the kendo stick, was broken to pieces right before his eyes. Now, to you and I, that's just a kendo stick, a piece of wood, but to Eddie Edwards, that piece of wood is family. So on May 31st, Eddie Edwards took on Killer Kross in a street fight, and at some point in the match, Killer Kross had Eddie Edwards down, and Killer Kross, he was wearing a flak jacket, probably to absorb some of the damage if Eddie Edwards went for chops or a kendo stick. Now, out of nowhere, ECW legend The Sandman entered the ring and attacked Killer Kross with a kendo stick, and this allowed Eddie Edwards to take advantage of the situation. Eddie Edwards finished the match hitting the Boston Knee Party on Killer Kross with a pin. Now, after the match, the Sandman gave Eddie Edwards a present, and guess what it was? It was a brand new kendo stick for Eddie Edwards. Now, remember how sentimental Eddie is with a kendo stick. Eddie talks to a stick, he names it Kenny, and he tries to use it to help him win matches. But don't forget, It was Tommy Dreamer, like I mentioned, who first gifted Eddie Edwards that kendo stick and passed the torch on to Eddie Edwards. So Sandman may be doing the same thing here. So we'll be talking more about Impact Wrestling right after these messages.
Do you want to kick back and have some drinks with your friends and play for free? Well then, you've come to the right place. Here at the Old School Arcade and Bar, we have a variety selection of games to choose from. So get over here at the Old School Arcade and Bar, have some drinks, and get your game on. For more information about the Old School Arcade and Bar, visit oldschoolarcade.com or visit us at our Mentor location at 5439 Parkway Plaza in Mentor, Ohio.
Follow us on Twitter at TWL 24/7.
I'm not finished with you!
And now, let's get back to the show. We are back on Talk Wrestling Live. This is still Fear After Dark, where we're talking about everything Impact Wrestling, just updating you on what's been going on. We were just talking about how the Sandman came out to help out Eddie Edwards. He gave him a new kendo stick, and we all remember what happened when Tommy Dreamer passed the torch, giving Eddie Edwards a new kendo stick. We all remember what happened with that. Eddie Edwards named it Kenny. He began talking to this piece of wood, and it was like family to him, but Killer Cross destroyed Eddie Edwards' kendo stick, and like I said, that piece of wood was like family to him. So with Sandman bringing him a new kendo stick, I'm sure Eddie Edwards was happy about that. But was Sandman just helping out Eddie Edwards, or was he also passing the torch, just like Tommy Dreamer had done? So moving on to Rich Swann. On May 17th, Rich Swann met one-on-one with Unbreakable Michael Elgin for a match. Now, Elgin already had Rich Swann down on the outside of the ring, but Kid Ref tried to check on Rich Swann, and instead, Elgin knocked down Kid Ref and hit a third buckle bomb on Rich Swann into the turnbuckle post on the outside. Now, Kid Ref got up and disqualified Elgin for putting his hands on him, but Elgin didn't stop there. Michael Elgin was about to hit what looked to be a pile driver on Rich Swann, but that's when Willie Mack made the save, coming to the rescue of his tag team partner, and Willie Mack delivered powerful blows to Michael Elgin and knocked him down to the ring canvas. But the former Impact Wrestling World Champion Johnny Impact, he came to the aid of Michael Elgin as Johnny attacked Willie Mack, so Johnny jumped off the ropes and delivered a kick to Willie Mack and taking him out, only for Johnny to change his focus on Rich Swann, with Johnny delivering another kick to lay Rich Swann out. So Elgin got back to his feet and he looked confused as to why Johnny helped him out in the first place. And I'm not sure Elgin wanted Johnny's help because he looked angry that Johnny got involved. So maybe Michael Elgin didn't think he needed Johnny's help. But then on May 31st, X-Division champion Rich Swann and Willie Mack took on Johnny Impact and Michael Elgin, who had Johnny Bravo supporting them at ringside. So during the match, Johnny Impact hit his own tag team partner, Michael Elgin, and Johnny claimed it was an accident, but Elgin wasn't going to take that, so he left Johnny on his own. Michael Elgin took off to the backstage area. Now the X-Division champion saw the opening, and that's when Rich Swann hit a 450 splash with a pin on the former Impact Wrestling World Champion Johnny Impact to win the match. Now let me repeat that. Rich Swann, the current X-Division champion, just defeated the former Impact Wrestling World Champion Johnny Impact. Rich Swann pinned him, and that's a huge accomplishment. With a win like that, what's stopping Rich Swann for setting his sights on the World Championship at Impact? Well, obviously Brian Cage, the current world champion, whenever he returns, but still an impressive feat by Rich Swann. So when we come back, we'll be talking about Lights Out and what's to come to Impact Wrestling right after these messages.
Man, this sucks. I can't go to the baseball game because I have to pack. We're moving next week and I have to get enough large boxes.
Did someone say oxes?
No, I said boxes. Ox's boxes are strong like an ox and durable for moving trips.
They're also biodegradable, which is just great for the environment. Download the Ox's Boxes app on your phone today, and your first box is free. And now we're offering same-day deliveries if you order before 4 p.m. on any given business day. Like us on Facebook or follow us on Twitter.
Follow us on Twitter at TWL 24/7.
I'm not finished with you!
And now, let's get back to the show. So we were just talking about how X-Division champion Rich Swann was able to defeat Johnny Impact in their tag match where Rich Swann was tagging with Willie Mack and Johnny Impact was tagging with Michael Elgin. So very impressive by Rich Swann. I'm not sure when he plans on focusing on the World Championship, but right now he's a successful X Division champion and he made Johnny Impact look pathetic. I mean, that was the former Impact Wrestling World Champion getting beat by the current X Division champion. So Rich Swann's looking like $1 million right here. And where his career is going, it can only go up from here, I think. But we're about to get started with the Lights Out report, where we talk about everything that's coming soon to Impact Wrestling. So let's get started with that.
Hello, ladies.
Shut up, 5. A 10 is talking.
I'm surprised you're containing yourself. It's like looking at a work of art, Josh. Scarlett Bordeaux has arrived on Impact Wrestling. Oh my God.
Hey, tell them to cover up. I will not be hot-shamed.
Talk about making an impact.
Make wrestling sexy again.
Scarlett Bordeaux has arrived. And now she's leaving, and it's, oh Lord.
Turn the lights down low, cause it's time for Impact Lights Out.
Hey wrestling fans, this is Felix the Cat Katlovski, and this is your report for Lights Out, where, as I said, we are going to update you on what's coming soon to Impact Wrestling. So, Impact Wrestling, for matches for this week on Friday, June 7th, on the Twitch app and the Pursuit channel, we know that Ace Austin will be taking on Cousin Jake. I wonder what kind of cards Ace Austin will be pulling up his sleeve, because we all know that he always uses those sharp playing cards that he gives paper cuts to his opponents with. So I wonder if that's on the agenda for Ace Austin. And then we also have, in a tag team championship match, we have LAX, the champions, taking on the Rascals. Now that's Desmond Xavier and Zach Wentz. So we'll see if LAX can retain their tag team championships once again, because the Rascals, they see an opportunity here and they're going to take it if they can. So Taya Valkyrie, she's scheduled to take on Rosemary, and we all know that Rosemary has Su Yung captive, still wearing that dog collar and chain. So we'll see if Su Yung is able to fight her way out of this, or if she's going to continue being Rosemary's prisoner. So Kiera Hogan, we know that she'll be taking on Jordan Grace in a match. And then we also have Scarlett Bordeaux, and she'll be tag teaming with Fallah Bahh to take on OVE. Now that's Jake and Dave Christ. Also, we know that Sami Callihan and Madman Fulton, they're going to be in action, and there's much, much more. So I'm looking forward to this week's Impact Wrestling on Friday, June 7th on the Twitch app and the Pursuit channel. Also, something to look forward to is on this Saturday, June 8th, on the Impact Plus app. It will be a night you can't miss from the ECW Arena, that's also known as the 2300 Arena in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. And we know that ECW legend Tommy Dreamer will be teaming up with Japanese wrestling legend The Great Muta to take on Johnny Impact and Michael Elgin, with special guest referee and X Division pioneer Jerry Lynn. Now this event is in partnership with Tommy Dreamer's House of Hardcore Wrestling promotion. Also, what's to come, we learned from last week on Impact from May 31st that Brian Cage would be defending his Impact World Championship at Slammiversary on Sunday, July 7th against Unbreakable Michael Elgin. So that's just next month. A lot of big things happening for Impact Wrestling, a lot of action that you don't want to miss. So catch it on Impact Wrestling, whether it's the Twitch app, whether it's the Pursuit channel, whether it's even Impact Plus. And we'll be talking more about Impact Wrestling when we return next week. So thanks for joining us. This is Felix the Cat Katlovski on Talk Wrestling Live. You have been listening to NorthCoastUnderground.com, where the Underground starts with you.
You've been listening to Talk Wrestling Live. Listen live on Mondays at 4 p.m. on NorthCoastUnderground.com.
And follow us on Twitter at TWL 24/7.
Goodbye and good night, bad wrist.